Good day, class, and welcome to another mini lesson by Mr. Brown. Hope all is well. Today we're going to get back on topic, get back on track, and I want to talk to you guys about craft moves again, and how to study craft moves in a mentor text so that we can mimic some of those techniques and use them in our writing. We know we're writing our short stories. Last time we focused a little bit about focused on dialogue and making sure that we're going to add dialogue to our stories. This time we want to make sure we get into imagery, another technique that we've talked about in the past, and we want to make sure that we're including in our stories imagery, which goes along with setting. Setting and imagery kind of go hand in hand. We want to think about the setting of our stories. Where's your story going to take place? What does it look like? Are you going to try to bring it to life, make it colorful, flowers, birds singing, water running? What do you want to have in your story to bring it to life? Or do you want it dark and gloomy and rainy and an alleyway, stray cats, stray dogs? So you have to think about what type of story you want to have and what type of images that you want to bring to life. We want to look at what is quickly. I'll go here one moment. Let's look at setting. Now, we know, here we go, cool. Now, we know that setting is the time and the place in which a story happens. We know that basically, are we saying that the story's happening in 2020? Did the story happen in 2018? When did your story happen? Now, that's the time, and then we want to deal with the place. Is your story happening in Mill Creek Park? Is your story happening in Newark, New Jersey? Is your story happening in Russia? Yugoslavia? You have your choice of where you want your story to take place. And then you want to think about, what place you're choosing, what does that place look like? So we want to think about, when you do that, you want to think about imagery. Okay? You want to think about imagery. And what is imagery? Imagery is the verbal expression of sensory experience, descriptive or figurative language used to create word pictures. Now, we know imagery is created by details that appeal to one or more of the five senses. And remember, when we used to do our charts, we would have our anchor chart and we would break down how each scene, we would use our mentor text of Mice and Men, which I'm going to do. And we would, show how when we read a chapter or so, and we would break down little parts of the book where we saw indirect character, how the imagery was appealing to the different senses. And we would do touch, and we would show a scene from the book where it dealt with touch. We would do hearing, and we did it, we would show a scene, maybe when the lizard was skittering, how that appealed to your sense of hearing. And we showed how imagery really touched on all the five senses. So we've done that before. But I want you guys just to think of, when you're creating your story, what type of images can you add to it to bring it to life? When you talk about the store, what does it look like? Where are the potato chips located? When you talk about driving on the highway, how about the red car that was going fast in the slow lane? Or so it's just different things that you can do. It's, as many examples that you can have. I'm just trying to give you some. But quickly before I go, what I want to do is I want to read just an example from our mentor text of Mice and Men, how we could study these craft moves and see how they use these craft moves as far as imagery is concerned. This time we've done dialogue, but this time we focused on imagery and setting, and how they bring it to life, how imagery helps to bring the story to life. So you want to make sure you're including imagery in your stories, okay, to help bring it to life when we continue to write our story. Our short story on the topic that we chose, whether it was bullying, police brutality, or racial discrimination, whatever you chose, and we're bringing it to life. But quickly, let's take a look at Of Mice and Men and look at this example here of imagery. A few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the hillside banks and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped twinkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight before reaching a narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foothill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gablin Gablian Mountains. But on the valley side of the water is lined with trees. Willows freshen green with every spring, carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter's floodings, and sycamores with mottled white recumbent limbs and branches that arc over the pool. On the sandy bank, under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs among them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered with the night tracks of coons and with the spread pads of dogs from the ranches and with the split wedge tracks of deer that come to drink in the dark. Okay, so when we look at that, we get such an example of the scenery, the open atmosphere. You can just imagine being out in the woods or the forest in some area. A beautiful setting with the trees, the water running, animals live there. You got so much from that scene just by the wording and the images that they chose to use to appeal to your senses. We heard about the skittering. We heard about the rabbits. We heard about the lizards. We heard about the sycamores and all those things that you can imagine in your mind and can see and feel and touch if you were actually in a place like that. So that's what you want to do. Bring your story to life. Make your reader be able to feel it, touch it, and bring it to life for them. And let's create some kind of great stories. All right. So what you're going to do is, once you complete this video, you're going to go over and complete the Google form just to make sure that you guys are clear on imagery and setting and making sure that you're going to apply it to your story. All right. Great day. Enjoy your time.